Now, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. First off, it's free. I'm not joking, you guys. The Anchor app, it is free to use. Second, there's creation tools that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Now that's awesome, isn't it? Third, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, you guys, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and so many more platforms. Fourth, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum relationship. Now, is that awesome, you guys, or what? That's just terrific. And finally, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So I have another podcast with Anchor, and I'm just loving Anchor so much. I love it. It's so very easy to use, guys. So why don't you download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, you guys, and welcome to the official podcast of Damian Talks Education. So listen up. I am here to talk about all things education on my podcast. So get prepared for some realness and honesty of education as I walk you down through various of topics that's happening in the education world with some amazing guests, to sharing stories relating to education and so much more, because I got you covered with education. So join me on this journey of education with me. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Damian Talks Education. I am so very excited about this episode right here of my first guest. So let me tell you guys all about him. So he differentiates curriculum and projects based on his students' interests, and he does workshops with professional development seminars that involve high energy, practical ways to use today's strategies and so much more with his audience. So everyone, please welcome on to the podcast, Mr. Andrew Daughty. Welcome to the show, Mr. Andrew Daughty. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Oh, yeah, Andre Daughty.
Andre Daughty, welcome. How are you doing?
Doing well. You doing okay?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on to my show. Thank you so much. So let's get started here with you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Andre Daughty, born and raised in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I'm that kid in the classroom who was always in trouble growing up until I found music. And I had a music teacher who saw the gifts and the talents inside of me and helped cultivate those gifts and those talents. And little did I know that I could play 8 instruments until I was in this teacher's class. So from there, got a scholarship to the Langston University, which is an HBCU in Oklahoma. And I was on the drum line there and loved every minute of it. And from there, I wanted to be a teacher to inspire students who did the exact same thing as that one teacher did. And so I've been in elementary education, been in secondary, college as well. And now I get to help teachers become better teachers and principals become better principals.
Right, that's good. You said that you are a music teacher, correct?
I am an elementary teacher who knows music.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's knowing all of the instruments or being able to use those in class, but instead of just being a music teacher, seeing those students once a week or twice a week, however the schedule is, I'm an elementary teacher, and I can infuse music, infuse hip hop, art, jazz, all of those other fine arts in elementary.
Good. So I want to ask you this, what inspired you to want to become an educator in the first place? Did you have an influence person on your life who wanted you to become a teacher in the first place, or did it kind of like run down in the family? I want to know what inspired you to want to become a teacher in the first place.
Yeah, both of those. I have a mom who was in education for 40 years. And so every Saturday school and summer school, I was up at the school helping. And then the second one was that same teacher, that music teacher who saw me as a not a deficit, but saw me as like this kid actually has a talent. We just got to hone the talent. And so those two were the inspirations. Of course, you know, you have countless other teachers who did something, gave an encouraging word or something like that. But those two have been the main two. My mom and that teacher, he's still around. He's still teaching. His name is Mr. Irons. And
Okay.
so shout out to Mr. Irons, still rocking and rolling all these years later.
All right, that's perfect. So, my next question for you is, we are still in this pandemic here. We are doing virtual learning, distant learning. So, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on all of it? And what is your school? What is your school doing? Are they doing virtual learning where students come into the classroom? Just how's it working? And then what are your thoughts on all of it? Are you liking it? And then once this pandemic's all over with, do you think that we will still be doing this hereafter into the classroom?
Yeah, so I'll give you the all of it. I am no longer inside of a classroom or a school. Now I get the opportunity. I started my own business, my own educational consulting business, where I get to go to schools and districts and teach them ideas and things like that. Or I get to go and be keynote speakers at conferences. And so being inside of a school, I'm no longer there, but my ear is still to the ground. I'm still right there inside of the hood, inside of the neighborhoods, the suburban areas, whatever you want to call it. I'm still there helping teachers and parents. So your first question is, what do I think of the online learning situation? I think it's dope because that was the first time I'd ever seen so many millions of teachers worldwide flex, and they turned on like a switch. In
Yes.
Oklahoma here, we were just starting spring break. And for those who may not know, the world shut down after the Oklahoma City Thunder game. So my brother was actually at the game when Oklahoma City Thunder was playing Utah Jazz, and then they shut down the game because one of the Jazz players had COVID. And
Oh.
so when they shut that down, the entire league shut down. The very next day, NCAA shut down. Next thing you know, all the sports, they were shutting down. So we were like the epicenter in Oklahoma City. And we were on spring break. That was like that Friday of spring break. And so my wife is a second grade teacher, and both of us looked at each other like, that's not good. It's about to go down. And over that weekend, you had all these millions of teachers go from we've never been online teaching to we got to figure it out in 2 days. And they did. And they are still figuring it out, but they went in like they dove into the deep oceans of the pool. They figured out which webcam to use, which speakers to use, how to integrate and make lessons engaging, even though we're on the camera. And they flexed like I've never seen before. Teachers are superheroes for that. Do I like it? Yes and no.
Okay.
I love it because there are some students who have found their new happy place. Those students who are introverts, who would rather be inside and don't really want to hang outside, and they don't want to go up and down the halls, and they're not party people. They want to go straight to the work. Oh, this is perfect for them. They knock out their work in 1 or 2 hours, 3 or 4 hours at max, and then they've got the rest of the day to do whatever they need to do. There have been so many students who've started businesses because of it. There are other students who got jobs now because of it, because
Mhm.
all that extra wasted space, they can now do something with it. So from that end, it's so dope. I appreciate it. I thank all of the districts who are doing that. From the opposite end, there are some students who just aren't that way. They can't learn in the online setting. They need to be face to face. They need that touch, that feel, that something. And so for those students, my heart goes out to them because they are getting left behind. Teachers are doing their best to keep students on track to what the norm looks like. But man, we're living in a pandemic. So that norm is crushed. There's no such thing as normal anymore. And
No.
so a lot of the schools and the districts are trying to think back to like those 2018, 19 years and saying that's what normal should be again. We'll never go back to that. And then your third question is, after the pandemic, what do I see still happening? I think a lot of these districts will still keep this online learning. In most school districts, they gave you a choice, whether it was like a blended model, which is like You can come to school for 2 of the 5 days of the week and then the rest of the time going home, or it's like an all online or nothing. I really believe that after the pandemic the numbers starts to go back down, we'll probably keep that around for at least another year. Sadly, for some teachers and districts, they may forever lose students because there are so many districts that offer online coursework. There are so many homeschooling online coursework. So some of those students may not return back to the class ever. They may just stay at home and learn. And so there's some flopping of sorts to say on that. For a lot of people, there's been a lot of positive things and advantages to it. Other times there's been some disadvantages and not so positive. So I do believe it will stick around at least for the next 2 years though. Yes. What about you? Have you seen that that is getting, do you like it? Do you not like it? Share your thoughts, man.
I personally, at first, of course, when this all had started to happen, I was like, oh, great. I can't go back in the classroom no more because I like the feel of being actually in the classroom with the teacher, with all of my friends and classmates, in that environment, in that atmosphere. And I like, going down the hallways, greeting, doing all that. But then once this hit, I was like, how are we going to do this? And then first, I quite didn't like doing this at first because we all didn't know how this was going to work out and play out. And then once we got really into it, I was like, because to me, this is quite very easy for me, of getting my work done very quickly. And then, like you said, like you get your work done early, then the rest of your day, you could do whatever you want to. So I like the idea of virtual learning. And like you said, that I believe once this pandemic's all over with, teachers and districts, they will still use this somehow into their classrooms. So I like virtual learning.
Yeah. The only thing I hate about it is I'm now seeing, like in Oklahoma, we had this huge snow day where ice was raining on us. Literally, it was called frozen rain, and the streets looked like an ice rink. Like it was ice everywhere. And so they were like, yeah, since there's no more snow days, since you got online learning, you guys just learn online today. And so the days of having snow days and kind of taking off from learning, those might be gone for a while. And I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. I like my snow days, man. I want my snow days. My kids want their snow days too. They don't want to have to still wake up and do work and it's snowing outside. A lot of us didn't like that answer at all.
So. True, absolutely true. So my next question for you is, there's so much that needs to be changed into our education system. I mean, there's so much. So I want to ask you if you could do anything of how we can improve our education system, what would you do first to improve it, to make it better?
That's good. How about I give you 3?
All right.
Right off the top. First thing I would do, I would throw away all the textbooks. Every one of them. Throw them out the door.
And why you say that?
Here's why. Because a lot of the textbooks that are created have been institutionalized, and there are so many racist tones inside of those textbooks that people just don't know and people don't see. And so we end up honoring a lot of our American heroes without learning the gritty details to our America. So I'll give you an example. Growing up, being an elementary teacher, so we've read all the books. Growing up, George Washington never told a lie. George Washington was the most honest person in the world. George Washington, his teeth and the axe and the cherry tree and all of this good stuff. And they talk about how amazing George Washington was, but they never talk about that George Washington had slaves. Yes, George Washington had dentures, and those dentures are at the Smithsonian. Absolutely, I've seen them. But they never told, where did the teeth from the dentures come from? And so that makes our America a little bit more grittier than the polished look that we give. The polished look is all of our presidents were just the best presidents in the world, and they cared for everybody. And the truth of the matter is, we had so many presidents who were flat out racist and hated Black people, hated minorities. So all of this that George Washington told a lie, where did they learn all of these things in school? And where did they come from? The books. Like one book in Texas shared that slaves were not called slaves, but they were voluntary indentured servants. They volunteered to come over and then to be servants for white people. That's not the truth. So the very first thing I would do, throw away the books. We've got the internet here. Until a textbook can really give us the truth, and you don't want your first graders learning 12th grade material. Right. You still want a grade level appropriate, but you still got to be honest with that first grader. You can't make it appear as if George Washington never told a lie, and we know that he did. So that was the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do, I would pay the teachers 6 figures, starting salary, 6 figures. A lot of people believe that teachers don't work 12 months a year, and they do, but they don't believe that because back in the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th century, teachers only worked during the fall and the spring, and then the summer they were off, because then that's when they could harvest the land and get the crops and sell the crops. So you needed all hands on deck. So that's why summers became summers off. Well, today's teachers are working 12 months a year. So pay them like they're working 12 months a year. Then if you really want more people in the profession, you got to pay them more. We just don't get enough respect compared to other countries. We value the dollar. I get it. I do get it. Your baseball, basketball, sports stars, entertainers make 19 times as much as a teacher. I totally get it because they do have a product that you can sell and bank. But the exact same way, our teachers deserve at least 6 figures. I should not be a teacher and be broke. I'm just being real with you.
Right, you're right.
I should be able to afford to be a teacher. And in Oklahoma, that's just really not the case. In Texas, which is just 4 hours, Dallas, Texas is 4 hours south from Oklahoma City. In Dallas, you get paid $20,000 more being a teacher. So a lot of people in Oklahoma, they just fly, live, drive, move to Dallas in that Dallas area because you get paid more. We should not be poor and be a teacher. You just shouldn't. I'm just being honest with you. So that's the second thing I would do. First thing, throw away all the books. Second thing, pay the teachers more. The third thing is to dismantle the system of learning. And what does that mean? That means that we expect everybody to sit in their chairs, sit in their seats, be quiet for however many hours, and learn a lesson without talking. And nobody learns that way. Now, the system that was set up that way, 14th, 15th, 16th century system, one-room schoolhouse, and it was designed for white people. So dismantle that entire system. If you go inside of a Googleplex, an Appleplex, if you go Facebook head, I would dismantle the entire system into what school looks like. For whatever reason, school has to look one certain way to be considered successful. School has to be quiet. We got to do these tests to make sure that, you know, these end of the year exams to show how smart we are compared to other companies and other countries and other industries and other whatever. Throw all that out the way and just let teachers teach how they've been teaching. Let principals be the principals like they know how to be. Yeah. You throw all of the other garbage and junk out the way, you'll find out that these teachers actually really know how to teach. And the reason why I say that is as soon as this pandemic happened, they threw all of that out the way, and they were like, teachers, they were already flexible and adjusted their entire curriculum to serve the students and the parents. And so if you just let these teachers teach and let these principals be a principal, I think the world would be different. So those are the three things that I would just straight up change in education. What is in that you'd say, if you could redirect education, what would it be?
Well, for me, the other day I saw on the news, or I was probably scrolling through social media, and I did an episode of this, of where our we are not teaching our Black students their history in schools. And to me, I don't understand why we are not doing that. We only wait until the month of February, which is Black History Month.
Right.
And we do it for that entire month. And then once that is over with, it's like you're going back to whatever that you are doing.
Yeah.
And just I don't to can you explain to me, like, why is it that teachers do that? They only talk about certain stuff throughout the year, and then when it comes to February, they're all on board of talk about it, but once it's over with, it's like you don't discuss it again. You're not teaching our Black students their history in school. Why is that? I just
Well,
don't understand
that depends. Yeah, the reason, because I asked some teachers that myself, and the short answer is you teach what you know. If I'm a math teacher and I know geometry really, really well, I'm teaching geometry in every little phase of my life.
Yeah.
We're going up and down the halls. If I'm elementary and I'm saying, you look at that, that's a right angle. Look where we stop here. Oh, this four-way stop sign, that's four stop right angles. Oh, that's an acute angle. Like whatever you're good in, that's what you just teach naturally. We have a lot of teachers who don't know real Black history beyond Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. They know that because that has been taught a lot.
Right.
But if you ask Minister Malcolm X, or you ask about Medgar Evers, or you ask about Huey Newton and what is the Black Panther Party for self-defense, that's not readily there. And so you'll teach what you know. And that's why for the month of February, I can fill out a month of some easy Black history facts. I can teach you who Benjamin Banneker was or Frederick Douglass, and that's good. Yep. But I don't know enough about the African kings and queens before they became slaves. Since I don't know it, I'm not going to teach it. I don't know about Pythagoras and how he went to Egypt to learn math. I don't know any of the math scholars who helped build the Egypt pyramid. So I'm not going to teach it. And that's the difference. And it's not just a Black thing. It's the same with our Latinx families and our Latinx history. There are so many heroes of different cultures we just don't know about. And so since we don't know about it, we're not going to teach it because we're not confident in teaching it. So we'll just stay really quiet. We'll give them a coloring sheet, or we'll just overlook it altogether. Or if you're in high school, during the morning announcements, we'll read like a paragraph from something we found online, and then we'll just call it a day. But those teachers who know that history, those teachers who are woke, those teachers who are very familiar with African-American studies or African-American history before slavery, after slavery, during the Reconstruction era, they'll share it. And that's the difference. There's just not a lot of teachers who are that familiar, so they stay quiet.
Yeah.
So then that's where I come in and I'm like, we can teach you this stuff. Now, I'm not going to spoon feed it to you, but I'll give you some ideas where you can look on Twitter and you can do the reading yourself. Exactly. And I think that's a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing now online since the George Floyd incident. It's no longer Blacks or minorities spoon feeding this knowledge. We're like, no, you go read How to Be an Anti-Racist yourself. And then you come back to me and we can talk. Versus, let me tell you what chapter 4 said. No, those days are over. Mm-hmm. Folk want to be woke. You got an internet. You got a Google. You can say, hey, Siri. You can say, hey, Google, Alexa, whomever, and you can learn this information. And so that's where I really appreciate a lot of our teachers. They're shifting in that way, where they're like, yeah, this history is a little muddy. So we need to teach the truth, and they are.
Exactly. Yeah. And I want to go on to where you mentioned George Floyd. So much has happened this year, 2020. So I want to ask you this here. What was your first reaction when you saw the death of George Floyd? We all saw it, and Breonna Taylor, and to so many more. What was your first reaction when you saw those videos?
My first reaction was, this is just another. Because before George Floyd, I mean, there's a website online, and even Wikipedia has it, just a list of the fallen minorities who have died at the hands of police, unjustifiably or without due cause, and so, or due process. And so when I saw George Floyd, I didn't watch the entire video. I stopped after about 30 seconds in because I already knew where it was going. And to me, it's almost PTSD like now, where I've seen so many of those over the course of my 30 plus years of being aware enough or old enough to understand it. It's like, okay, this is another number. This is another name. What I do appreciate with George Floyd was a lot of non-blacks said enough is enough. And those allies working together is now starting to make a difference. Where before we just talked about it all and saw the evidence and it was like nothing. But now I'm starting to see more allies joining the fight, and I'm all for that. How about you? When you first saw it, what was your reaction?
Well, with you, I didn't watch the whole thing because because I knew where it was leading off to. And
Yeah,
when I first saw it, I was like, and I talked with my good friend about this, like, I can't believe this again. This is another, and I can't believe that. And here's what I'm still quite confused with. I don't quite understand here. Why are we black men? Why do they see us as targets all the time? I pretty much don't understand that we can't do nothing. I can't even go outside to even jog or even walk because if I do, they will see me as doing something that I'm not even doing. I'm just walking or even jogging, but they will not see that. They will see something else. So
yeah.
why do they see that with us?
So
That
that's
we are
called
the bad guy.
classical. Yeah, that's called classical conditioning. Uh, Believe it or not, this is where some of the philosophy and the theory comes into play. Uh, we've heard of Pavlov and Pavlov's dog, where Pavlov had a bell, and every time he rang the bell, the dog came to him, so he gave the dog a treat. And then he did that after so many times, where the dog would stop what it was doing and run to Pavlov, he would get a treat. So then afterwards, he quit giving the treat, but he kept ringing that bell, and that dog would come. Conditioned that dog to, anytime I hear a bell, I'm going to get a treat if I run to my master. Well, that's the same thing there that happened in the 1900s, end of the 1800s as well. They started conditioning people to say that black people are evil. Black people are porch monkeys. They're apes. They're animals. They're three-fifths human. They're you name it. And then there was a movie, the very first blockbuster that came out, called The Birth of a Nation. And that was the very first movie that played at the White House. And inside of that movie, The Birth of a Nation, it shows a black man stealing a white woman and raping her. Now, of course, the black man isn't a black man. He's actually a white man in blackface. And he steals and rapes the white woman. And then the KKK come to the rescue. And then they rescue the white woman and hang the black person. Conditioning. So they showed that movie so many times. That movie was so popular. It was the very first summer blockbuster. And they played that so much. Everybody said, oh, black people, they're scary, they're evil, they're mean, they're animals. They're going to rape our women. Now, imagine that was back in the early 1900s. Fast forward 100 years later, classical conditioning. So these are some of the biases that we as Americans have to stop. We have to really stop and really think about, why is it that every time I get in the elevator with a black person, I clench my purse? Or why is it when a group of minorities come inside of my store, I keep my eye on them? Or why is it if I'm driving in the hood and I stop at a stoplight, I make sure that my door is locked? Like, this is classical conditioning, and we have to unlearn those things in order to grow. And if not, then you'll be running in a Georgia neighborhood and you'll have people following you, and then you'll confront them, and then they'll pull out a gun and then they'll shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Or classical conditioning, where if we see a person with a gun who is a card carrying, a second rights amendment having person who has the license to say, I've got a gun, you're still a threat. It's classic conditioning. We've got to unlearn those things.
Right.
And I'm saying we because everybody has biases.
Mm-hmm.
And we as Black people, we also have some biases that we've got to tackle ourselves. So this isn't a just you versus me. This is a we. All of us got some issues we got to deal with, whether it be if you, there could be a lot of them. First one I'm thinking of, like how to treat people inside of a school. For those who are now identifying as a he or they pronoun, like your biases, how you were raised, how you grew up, conditioned, you've got to unlearn that stuff. And in school is one of the best places to do it, to unlearn your thinking and teach the right way. So there's your answer to it. Why are we still being treated the way we are? Because there are some people who've had some classical conditioning, and anytime they see a Black person nearby, bell is rung, and then all of a sudden they get nervous and they get scared, and I'm scared for my life. I shot first.
Yep.
Classical conditioning.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So we are both Black men. So right. I want to ask you this. What does it mean for you of being a Black man in America right now at this moment?
Yeah. I'm a superhero, man. I can't say it no other way. I am such a superhero. Here's why. My skin is so divine.
Yes.
And this is what I've been teaching both of my kids. Of course, we've had the talk. I have a daughter, and my daughter is a darker melanin. I mean, just beautiful. And of course, she has some friends who said you can't play with us because, you're dark and I'm white. I get that. But we've been saying that for forever. Hey, your skin is beautiful. How beautiful is your skin? People will pay money to tan just to look like you. Your skin is phenomenal. And so as a Black man in America, I'm the scariest person on earth, but not for the reasons you think. Because most people look at me in this getup right here and they may think thug.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that this thug in their mind as a master's could have been a principal, has been a college professor, is about to be a college professor again, has been doing keynotes, has been teaching all of the educators. Like, I am a superhero, and I'm okay with that. There are so many teachers who look just like me, and they are phenomenal.
Right.
They are super people. They are superhuman. And so just flipping that thing, we went from being not even treated as an American, being 3/5 human, to now you want lip injections to look like me. You're getting fillers on your face to look like me, to have a figure like me. We are superheroes. And I'm okay with that. So as a Black man, yeah, I'm doing everything I can to stay protected. I'm doing everything I can to stay educated. I'm also doing everything I can to be the bridge for both cultures. Education is a predominantly white profession, but I grew up in the hood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that bridge on Facebook, on social media, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Instagram, I'm that bridge. I don't mind having the rough conversations because I need my white friends and family to hear from the unspoken or from the unheard from my Black friends and family. I need my Black friends and family to hear from my Latinx family. And so I don't mind being that bridge for all. And that's another reason that makes me a superhero. What does it mean to you, man, to be a Black man in America right now? How do you feel?
I'm with you on the same thing. We are superheroes. We are powerful. We can do anything.
Yeah,
And we are creative of what
yeah,
we can do. So I am proud of being in this skin I am in. I will not be in anything other than this. Be proud of the skin that you are in. So I'm with you on there. We are superheroes. We are. So I want to ask you this here. This year, 2020, we start having these conversations about racism right after the George Floyd's killing. So I want to ask you this here. What conversations should we be having with our white friends who don't quite understand racism at all?
Mhm. So living in Oklahoma, Oklahoma is a very conservative state. And I'm not just saying politically, there's a lot of we just never knew. Like the actual little literal turn of ignorance, of never really knowing. There's a lot of people in Oklahoma who just never heard of the Tulsa massacre. They lived in Oklahoma their entire life and they had never heard of the Tulsa bombing or the Tulsa race riots. So they are literally ignorant based on the definition. And so the way that I do it is I don't mind teaching. That's what I am. I'm a teacher.
Right.
So let me share with you. And the way I do it is through pictures. I'll share with them a picture of a Ruby Bridges being escorted by National Guard to a room. And there's enough of those pictures out where you can see the hatred on faces. And then we do like thinking routines and exercises with them. And one of them is called See, Think, Wonder. What do you see in this picture? Ruby Bridges being scared, holding her books, being escorted by National Guards with guns on them, and all around them are white people screaming, and you can see the hatred in their eyes. What do you see in that picture? What do you think she's thinking? Ruby Bridges was only 6. What do you think she was thinking as a 6-year-old seeing adults scream at her? And I'm sure they called her every word in the book.
Yeah.
And then wonder, what do you wonder about it? I wonder, why were those adults screaming? They saw that she was a kid, a baby, probably still had on My Little Pony and Friends underwear. I mean, a little baby. The pigtails, the ponytails, still playing with dolls. All of the things associate to a little girl. But yet these adults were there. So see, think, wonder. And we just do those routines with adults. I do it on social media. I encourage you to find those pictures and do it on your Twitter as well. Like, what do you actually see in this picture? What do you think about this picture? What are some things of the wonderings that you think from this picture? And that's just a way to teach those who are legit ignorant on those things. There are others who know better. They just pretending like they don't know. And that's the same way. I'm going to share with you these pictures. And what I love about our social media right now is just that.
Yeah.
Everybody is taking pictures and videos.
Yes.
So there's no more excuses of I didn't know. It's been on your news feed. It's been in those mentions. It's been the hot topics. It's been the trending. No matter if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, no matter whatever your platform is, it's been trending somewhere. So you can no longer have that excuse. And I'm grateful for that because I'm gonna make sure that I continue sharing out those images, the same images of people in line waiting hours to vote, and then comparing that to the 1960s during the civil rights era, and they were waiting hours to vote. What do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? And so just teaching them, and then if you want more information about it, go online, look up Ruby Bridges. Once again, I'm not going to spoon feed you anymore. We got to Google. We got this thing. So go online and read about it. Come back and talk to me.
I feel you on that. I feel you on that. And with me, and I talk with one of my friends again on this of anyone, I am all open to having a conversation with you. with anything, racism, the Black Lives Matter movement, whatever. But with me here, if you want to talk with me about these things, it is fine. I'm so
Yeah.
open with it. But before you come to me talking about it, I just want you to please do your homework first of knowing your facts. Because if you come to me pouring out false information and this and that, I don't want to, I don't, because I don't got time for that. I'm
Yeah.
going to have it the right way with you, the correct way with you, if you first do your homework first. So that is with me of
Yeah.
having these conversations. What about you
Yeah. I
on
don't
that?
mind it. I don't mind. Like I said, there are some people here who just legit don't know. That's okay. But if you're just going to copy and paste off of something that you get saw from somewhere else, that doesn't bode well with the homies in my news feed, because we have some very riveting conversations. And like I said, I'm open to that. I'm that bridge. So my militant friends, my militant teachers, they don't mind conversing with my conservative or uber Christian people. Those conversations happen. My non-LGBTQ friends are getting it from my LGBTQ friends. Like, I don't mind having those conversations. So if you jump into the conversation and you jump spewing non-facts, untruths, and straight up lies, they'll cite you
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and they will give you receipts. And so I love that. So the conversations are amazing. And I'm just glad that once again that they are learning, because here's an article that links to it. Here's a book that champions what they were talking about. It's just not, I'm just spewing, untruths. I'm giving you citations of where you can learn more about this. And I think that's what helps this world get a little better. And I also think that's why I'm so much in favor of throwing away school books, those school books, and actually using
Yes.
these real books of facts.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you on that. Now, going back to education,
Yeah.
I'm a future educator, and then most of my listeners, they are future educators. So,
Shout
what?
out to you. Yeah. Yeah. Hang
So,
in there. We need you, man. So come on.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So because yes, we need more Black male educators into this field. Seriously, we really do. So, what advice would you give to me, to my listeners, and to whoever who wants to pursue a career in education or quite something similar, but do not know the right path to go down on?
If you're thinking about wanting to do it, my first advice would be go find a teacher and just watch one day. And then find one from a good end and one from a not so good end, because you'll be inspired, you'll be encouraged, you'll feel like a superhero
Yeah.
watching that one great teacher. But that's not an everyday thing. And sometimes that's where we lose a lot of our new teachers, because they've been inside of the great rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's their turn to actually do the teaching, they're like, that's not what I saw. I saw Mr. Irons inspiring kids, and that was phenomenal. But in real life, it looks opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my advice. Go observe a teacher who's dope, but then also go observe a teacher who's not, because then you'll get to see a mix of reality. The
Yes.
second thing I would do is I would tell you to check your heart, check yourself. Ice Cube said, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I would really, really tell you to check yourself, because today's kids, they come in with so much more trauma
Yeah.
than any generation I've ever seen. Uh, my generation dealt with bullying, but as soon as you got home, you were safe, because you didn't have to worry about seeing that bully until the next day at school or until you got on the bus or whatever it may be. Now you get home,
Mm-hmm.
that bullying don't go away because it's online. That bullying don't go away because online is forever. And so today's students deal with so much more than ever before. And so if you are not up to that challenge, please don't get into education. As much as we need you, I would hate for you to join and you not ready for it. There was a stat done by his name is Jawanza Kunjufu, and he once said, for every 1 year of a bad teacher, or for every 1 year of an ineffective teacher, it takes 2 years to catch them up.
Mm.
So I would hate for anybody to be a teacher and hurt those students for one bad year. Because then when that student moves on to another grade, or if that student repeats that grade, it's going to take that student 2 years to catch up. So for all of your listeners out here, for all of you future teachers, really check yourself. Like, am I really willing to put in that 100% of the work on a Friday night at 1 a.m. because I know my students are going to need it on a Monday? Am I willing to take my work to church, and while the pastor is preaching, I'm grading papers? Am I willing to not have a life on the weekends sometimes and staying up at that school until 9 p.m. on sometimes just to make sure that these kids are successful? Right. Am I really, really, really willing to do that? To have a Christmas or a winter break and not actually take a break? And the reason I say that is because right now I've been working right here at this computer. I've got my work and I'm like, I've got to take a break. But at the same time, I also know in order for the students next semester to really get the most bang for their buck, I got to prep. And so these future teachers next semester, they're going to get some amazing stuff from me, but it takes that work now. I cannot take a break. My break comes on Christmas. Christmas, I'm not doing any work. Shutting it down. I'm shutting it down. But before then, man, I was up 1 a.m. just being raw, being real. I was up 1 a.m. last night listening to my YouTube playlist while I'm working and crafting the next semester's course. My wife, like I said, is a second grade teacher. She's supposed to be on break. She's already creating online courses and lessons for her second graders for next semester. Like that's a self-check that some schools just don't share. Exactly. And especially like a lot of our society think that once when school's out, we go home and we party or whatever it may be. Nah, most teachers, we are prioritizing life, family, faith, church, friends. And then after all of that, we back in those books. We're back into trying our best ways to figure out how to teach tomorrow's leaders today. So that would be my advice for you, man. Like really, really think about it. Think where is best, where am I needed most? I'm a Black male educator. Where am I needed most? How could I produce the most change? For some people, it's middle school. For some people, it's high school. For some people, it's special ed. For others, it's regular ed, perhaps elementary, perhaps primary education, just fine arts, wherever it is. Once when you're there, really take into account, like, I'm going to want to give up a lot of days. Am I really caught for this? Before I ever get that job, before I ever finish the school, is this something that I really, really am passionate about? Because that gloss and that glamour goes away soon. And then that paycheck is non-existent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to really, really love what you're doing to be that teacher.
Exactly. Yeah. And thank you for those advice there. I would take that, carry that with me.
Yeah.
So here's my final question for you. We have President Joe Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Into the White House.
Uh-huh.
And then we have Dr. Jill Biden, who is also an educator.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? We have the first lady who is an educator. So do you think once she's in office, some change will happen into our education system? What do you think she will do once into the White House?
I think she does have influence. Being Dr. Biden, yes. I do believe she will have some influence. I am more concerned about who is the Secretary of Education, because the one that we've had before, that I'm trying to say this diplomatically, that young lady, it felt at times that he was ill prepared to tackle some of the issues of education that was needed. Oh, that was amazing, Andre. Way to go. Yeah. Whomever the Secretary of Education is when he or she is picked, that's a tall task. That's the person that I'm championing and I'm hoping and I'm rooting for, that person comes in and really takes a look at what education looks like right now for kids, whether it be online or in school, what it looks like for teachers who are stressed out right now because they've been full throttle since March, whether it be those teachers who had to quit because they couldn't afford to be a teacher anymore, and now they're at Farmers Insurance, or they're at this place because that they can afford to live with their family at those external places versus where their heart is in education. It's all of those things that I'm really hoping that can make some change. But I'm gonna be honest with you, change always happens at the local level first. It hardly ever stops at the top, hardly. So I'm thinking about those school board members at the local district who have been trying to fight the good fight. I'm pulling for them more than I am Dr. Biden, or that I am for the Secretary of Education. It's those local people who are making the differences for those students and those teachers. So locally here in Oklahoma City, like I said, the ears to the streets, because I'm that advocate for a lot of those parents and a lot of those families who don't have that voice. I'm in some of those circles or in some of those meetings, and sometimes I'm the only Black person in those circles and in those meetings. That's okay. I'm going to teach you the truth. I'm going to give you the truth. I'm going to tell you what the school and the streets and the parents are saying, just being that advocate. And so that's where I'm hoping continues to happen nationwide and even worldwide, where it's starting from that grassroots level, where the teachers and the principals are saying, we know exactly what our students need. We see them every day. And those parents are like, we agree, because those teachers see them every day online. This is what we need. This is what we want. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Absolutely. Same with me. Same with me. Yeah. Hoping that she will change students' lives.
Yeah. And we'll feel it. We'll feel the change.
Yeah.
By September, October, because by that time, like, a lot of the vaccines should already be out, and those who have volunteered to take them have already taken them. They promised that a lot of the educators would get them before non-educators. So hopefully the vaccines stick and work, because then by September, October, November, we can start to get back to what it looks like full-time at a school 5 days a week. Right now, I've been telling so many people, don't do it just yet, as far as don't go back to school 5 days a week. Just this entire 21, stay online until the fall. We regroup in the fall, reassess in the fall, take an account of how many's had the vaccine, how many have not. Are there side effects and drawbacks to the vaccine? Like, take all of that into account over the summer, and then make an educated decision for fall, and then have like the first day of school in November. Like, literally just stay online, November, whatever. Then, if based on all of the data and the science that for whatever reason we've kind of let go, these last years, if the data and the science backs that it is wise to start 5 days again, start it. But if the data and the science does not think so, we already know we can stay online.
Yeah.
Stay online until next January.
I'm with you. I'm with you, because into starting next year in 2021, my school is thinking about
doing quite a little bit of both, of in person and then online. And to me personally, I don't feel comfortable.
Right.
I just don't, because the COVID cases are going back up even more than now,
Yeah.
and people are not taking it seriously. So for me, I'm going to continue on doing it online
Yeah.
until, like you said, we see some data improve. And then once we get all the vaccines all out, and then starting into the fall, we could go back into the building. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank you so much for coming on to my podcast. Great discussion, absolutely great discussion. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So where can my listeners follow you on social media?
Yeah, real simple. Andre, Andre, Daughty, Daughty. Whatever your social media of choice is, I'm there. Or if you can go to my website, andredowdy.org, and find a little bit more about what I do and how I help teachers and principals.
All right. So again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure of having you on. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. So you take care of yourself out there.
Agreed. And same to you. Stay safe out there, these COVID streets.
Yes, absolutely. You take care.